This secret location, some 2 kilometers away from the front line in the Donetsk region of eastern Ukraine, is the position of the forward surgical team. It is the closest site to the front line where the wounded soldiers are first being brought by the paramedics.
They can already be in a foxhole, in a dugout, or they can be exactly where they have been wounded. We collect them from the very front line quite often.
Ivanka is the 6th-year medical student and a member of the Госпітальєrs group, a medical branch of the right sector. She's the leader of the team which collects the injured soldiers from the front line, provides first aid, brings them to this location and hands them over to the care of the doctors. The doctors decide if the injured can be evacuated to the nearest hospital. However, not all of the wounded need to be evacuated.
According to my own estimates, only every third or fourth patient who was brought to us was sent further to the hospital. All the rest of the soldiers went back to their positions, to their locations to continue fulfilling their duties.
This ambulance-turned operating room for light surgeries serves its purpose in this frontline location, and once the patient is stabilized, he's evacuated to the proper hospital.
We bring our injured soldiers from our position to hospital and give all the medical help to them during this way.
Meshko is also a member of the Госпітальєrs group. He will be driving this injured soldier to the nearest hospital. The soldier was in serious condition, and his case would have been much worse by the time he would have arrived at the hospital had it not been for this forward surgical team and this undoubtedly life-saving stop.
Conventional army mobile hospital is placed on a field, but in 120 kilometers away from front line. From this tactical situation, 120 kilometers, it took 3 hours to evacuate a person with internal bleeding.
Alexander is the medical director of the first volunteer mobile hospital, an NGO founded and staffed by the volunteers, mostly civilian doctors who leave their jobs behind and go to the war zone to save lives, the lives of Ukrainian soldiers fighting against Russian aggression in eastern Ukraine. And while those soldiers are well and functional, all is fine. But once they get wounded, the real challenge begins.
Between frontline and the specialized hospital, the delay in Ukraine, in our situation, is huge. It's about hours and hours, sometimes days. Evacuation is a big problem here.
Alexander says that having such forward surgical teams as close to the front line as possible is vital. The most common cause of death in war is loss of blood, and while fellow soldiers or paramedics can provide first aid, it's not always enough to stop critical bleeding. To tackle this problem, the first volunteer mobile hospital recruits volunteer doctors, trains them with the help of the Patriot Defense Program, and sends them as forward surgical teams right to the front line. This state-of-the-art operating room has everything one needs, even for a complicated surgery. But the most important asset is its personnel, coming here to the war zone on their own will, by the call of their hearts. The location of another forward surgical team is not so secret. It's the frontline town of Popasna. During the wintertime, Popasna was under heavy shelling, and as a result, almost 90% of the town's population fled. Now locals are starting to return, and these volunteer medics have their hands busy.
In this hospital where we are now, only a handful of doctors remain. All the rest left, and since we came here, the flow of patients, both civilian and military, is increasing by the day.
And even though it is relatively quiet here right now, the destruction around this town reminds these doctors that everything might change here very quickly and very dramatically. Thus, they remain vigilant even while the truce is in place. A very shaky truce indeed. This is Volodymyr Sulhu, Pavlo Bondarenko, and Dmytro Serdechny, reporting from Donetsk region for Ukraine Today.